Lagos Talks
91.3.
News.
The Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, says Nigeria needs to surmount its chronic productivity problem by fine-tuning its economic plan, especially the prioritization of value addition. The Vice President, who spoke at the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC 13th Delegate Congress in Abuja, said the country should focus on adding value to raw produce so that Nigeria can be the factory of export for the continent.
Unless we produce the environment, the business and commercial environment that is able to pay the price of that social contract. And this is where the rubber meets the road. We have to surmount our chronic productivity problem. 200 million people only generating $25 billion in collective revenue is far too small. We need, of course, to fine-tune our economic plan, especially the prioritization of value addition. We simply must encourage value addition. We must encourage the private sector. For example, in agriculture, our focus had always been on the export, production and export.
Earlier in his address, the outgoing president of the NLC, Comrade Ayuba Waba, called on the federal government to address the privatization of the power sector, noting that the sector is one area which the country has not made progress. He further noted that while the issue of the infrastructural deficit have been addressed, like in the rail system, insecurity was negatively affecting the progress made.
The railway progress is being made, but I think insecurity is also affecting that. The power sector is one area that we have not made progress. We are privatized, but instead of adding value, in fact, Nigerians are being exploited on a daily basis. They keep increasing the tariff clandestinely without informing customers that they are increasing the tariff. Is that acceptable? No. Service must be commensurate to what people pay. We can't continue to pay for darkness, and we cannot also continue to pay estimated billing. And we have come to the conclusion that the privatization actually has failed, because many years down the ladder, we have not seen the real dividends in privatizing the power sector. And we call on government to quickly, which is the consensus reached at the last meeting we had, to review the entire privatization process.
President Muhammadu Buhari held a closed-door meeting with the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, Atiku Bagudu, the chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum, and Aminu Tambuwal, the chairman of the Nigeria Governors Forum, at the Council Chamber of the State House in Abuja. Abdurrashid Bawa, chairman of the EFCC, and General Lucky Irabo, chief of defense staff, were also present at the high-level meeting which held yesterday. While the press was not addressed, the meeting may not be unconnected to the ongoing cash crunch and recent Federal High Court order restraining the federal government and the CBN from extending the February 10 deadline for swapping and discontinuing the usage of the old Naira notes. Meanwhile, the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, has assured the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, that the Apex Bank will ensure to make cash available for payment of logistics and movement of election materials. Speaking when he received a delegation led by the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, the CBN Governor said that the Apex Bank will not allow itself either to be used or to be seen as an agent that frustrated the positive outcome of the general election.
The assurance I give to you is that because we regard the INEC project as at a topmost or an urgent national assignment, it cannot fail. And the central bank will not allow itself either to be used or itself to central bank to be seen as an agent that frustrated a positive outcome of that election. So I sit here to give you that commitment that whatever you need, like you have been responsible in the past anyway. It's not just about cash. You've done electronic payments before. And if in this case, after making your electronic payments, you require some money to pay transporters, in this case cash, the assurance I give to you is that
Earlier in his remarks, the INEC chairman had noted that the meeting is in view of the recent cash swap policy deadline and withdrawal limits, adding that the meeting was necessary to assure vendors, most of whom are unbanked, that cash should be provided as payment for their service. The federal government has warned of dire consequences for any individual or groups who attempt to exploit or further cause untold hardship to ordinary Nigerians by disrupting fuel supply and distribution chain. This is coming on the heels of renewed efforts by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to maintain the 450.92 million litres weekly evacuation of petrol to different filling stations nationwide. The Ministry of State for Petroleum Resources, Chief Temipre Silva, who gave the warning on Tuesday, called on security agencies to be on high alert in preventing attempts by subversive elements to cause any disruption during the period of the general elections in the country. Meanwhile, the NNPC Limited has apologized to Nigerians for the over 3 months of pains caused by the nationwide fuel scarcity. The group CEO, Mele Kyari, who spoke during an interview on Channels Television special election program, the 2023 verdict on Tuesday, assured the public that the glitch will be resolved to everyone's relief. The NNPC boss explained that market forces will determine how quickly the situation is resolved, but in his view, the country is going to see substantial and relative ease in the next 1 week compared to the situation at present. In the meantime, the Independent Marketers Association of Nigeria, IPMAN Western Zone, has urged Nigerians to stop panic buying of petrol, assuring them that fuel scarcity would soon ease off. Its Western Zone chairman, Alhaji Dele Tajuddin, who gave the assurance in Ibadan yesterday, clarified that there was no directive stopping its members from continuing with their operations, pointing out that the speculation on shutting down of filling stations was not from the association, but from its Maiduguri depot, which does not affect members of IPMAN in other parts of Nigeria, particularly in the southwest region. He was reacting to the speculations making the rounds that IPMAN had directed its members to stop operations and shut down their filling stations to protest hike in the price of fuel. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike says the state government has reissued the approval of the National Working Committee of his party, the PDP, to use the Adokie Emir Simaka Stadium in the state to host its presidential campaign rally. The Rivers State government had on January 31 withdrawn the initial approval of January 11 on the grounds that credible intelligence and recent development showed that the PDP presidential campaign organization was working in collaboration with the All Progressives Congress, the APC, in Rivers. However, at the state PDP campaign rally in the Ogubolo local government area yesterday, Wike revealed that the government reapproved the use of the venue after pleas by many personalities. The governor also spoke on the crisis in the PDP, even as he faulted the comment by the national chairman of the party, Iyocha Ayu, that a member of the G5 paid him a visit. The Lagos State chapter of the All Progressives Congress has suspended its campaign towards the forthcoming elections. According to a release through its spokesman, Honorable Sheye Oladejo, the state chairman, Honorable Cornelius Ojelabi, said the decision was reached as a result of the state of the nation due to the scarcity of fuel and pain occasioned by the Naira redesign. He emphasizes with the general public, especially the downtrodden who are at the receiving end, noting that it will be insensitive to forge ahead with the various rallies with the situation of things having been inundated with several complaints from its members. Meanwhile, the Lagos State government says 27.3% of its 2023 budget, amounting to the tune of 482.86 billion naira, will be expended on modern infrastructure. Speaking at a breakdown of the year 2023 budget, which is 1.76 trillion naira, the State Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget, Sam Egube, said the appropriation law christened Budget of Continuity was prepared to continue the good work of the administration.
So when you look at infrastructure on a whole, you'll be looking at infrastructure that is driving things in education. You are looking at infrastructure that is driving our health systems. You are looking at infrastructure that is driving our transportation systems. So all infrastructure is not just road or rail. It's interwoven in a very intelligent way, in a mesh way. You see it clearly. But infrastructure is what makes the cost of doing business go down.
You're still listening to the World News reaching you from your favorite radio station. Moving on to the foreign scene, a new UN report has suggested the most common factor driving people to join extremist groups in sub-Saharan Africa is not religion, but the need for work. The report by the UN Development Programme was based on interviews with more than 2,000 individuals in Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Chad, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Somalia and Sudan. Only 17% of respondents said that religion was the reason for joining radical groups, whereas 40% said poverty was their main motivation. Rescuers are desperately searching for survivors in southern Turkey and northern Syria after two huge earthquakes on Monday. More than 7,800 people have now been killed, but there are warnings the death toll could continue to surge. As search efforts continue into a second freezing cold night, time is running out for rescuers to find survivors under the rubble. Moving on to business news, the Debt Management Office, the DMO, has announced an offer of two federal government of Nigeria FGN savings bonds at 1,000 naira per unit to prospective investors. According to a statement on DMO's website, the first offer is a 2-year federal government of Nigeria savings bond due in February 15, 2025 at 10.043% interest rate per annum. The second offer is a 3-year FGN savings bond due on February 15, 2026 at interest rate of 11.043% per annum. The opening date for the offer is February 6, closing date is February 10, settlement date is February 15, and coupon payment dates are May 15, August 15, November 15, and February 15. Finally, to sport news, the Olympic committees of 5 Nordic nations have backed calls for the ban on Russian and Belarusian athletes to be upheld for the Paris 2024 Games. In a joint statement, the Finnish, Icelandic, Norwegian, Swedish and Danish committees said now is not the right time to consider their return. The International Olympic Committee IOC has said Russians and Belarusians may be allowed to compete as neutrals, but Ukraine has threatened to boycott the Paris Olympics if that plan goes ahead. Last week, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia and Poland all voiced their opposition to the inclusion of athletes from the two countries. Argentina, Chile, Paraguay and Uruguay have officially submitted their joint bid to host the 2030 World Cup, 100 years after the inaugural tournament was held in Montevideo. The 4 South American nations have called for the World Cup to return to where football was born and would aim to shake off another joint bid competition from Spain and Portugal.
Lagos Talks
91.3.